Welcome back to Feeling Seen, the podcast that talks about the movies and the characters that make us feel seen. My co-host today is an actor whose filmography is a personal favorite of mine. He was in last year's The Beekeeper, and longtime listeners will know that credit alone puts him close to my heart. But I first came to know of him back in 2016 when he appeared in the phenomenal horror movie Under the Shadow. He's appeared in TV shows like Prison Break, Fear the Walking Dead, and now the brand new show, The Better Sister, co-starring Jessica Biel and Elizabeth Banks. His name is Bobby Naderi. Bobby is taking us on a bit of a trip through Iranian cinema today, which means there will be fewer clips in this episode as some of those films we are discussing are in Farsi. But if you've never seen Taste of Cherry from 1997 or Hit the Road, which came out just a few years ago in 2021, I'm sure our conversation will convince you that you should. And we will also be talking about 2016's Captain Fantastic, which I did think was fantastic. So you will hear a bit about that as well. Bobby Naderi, what else do the people need to know about you before we get started today?
No, that was wonderful. Yeah, I'm glad you saw Under the Shadow. I'm really proud of that film. I think it's on Netflix. Yeah, it's on Netflix.
Okay, good. Widely available to the people.
But watch it in Farsi because you don't want to hear the dubbing.
I believe, as I understand it, I think you were born in Tehran, and I wanted to hear I wanted to hear about Under the Shadow, taking that movie, that dealing with it is happening during the Iran-Iraq war, and a woman who is left to herself with just her small child in her apartment becomes the target of a jinn. And it is haunting, and it is beautiful, and it's a suffocating movie. And I wanted to hear about you getting that role, sort of, you know, what came after that, like in terms of like role choice, and just something that it's an highly appreciated movie by those who have seen it, but not widely enough seen. So tell me a bit about going on board that movie.
That was an incredible experience. I had done a film called Taklakors way back, like a few years before that. And the director is Babak Anwari, who's absolutely brilliant and has become a dear friend. They're based out of London. The production was based out of London. I received this meeting request, and they sent me his short film. It's a brilliant 8-minute short, and then the script. And I had a meeting with Babak, and he said, we're shooting it in Jordan. He wanted to make sure I can speak Farsi without the accent of having learned it, because I was there until 6. So I remember the war. I was born in 84, so it was right in the middle of it. And it was an incredible experience. We shot for like 20 days in Jordan. And it did really, really well. And a lot of people love it. But yeah, it's not widely seen, but whoever's seen it has had a positive experience.
There is such a, the most utility perspective, I feel like, on horror. It's like what it reveals to us about like the intimacies and fears and anxieties of people who are from where we are not from, who have experienced things that we have not. And it was so like to watch something set during a war from an area of the world that I feel like, particularly the United States, where we can be very like geocentric about how we are the world and how we affect the world and everything revolves around us, into looking into a region where I feel like there is a lot of stereotype and a lot of negative sort of image ginned up through a years-long sort of mass and small media campaign to, I don't know, it seems like too many pejoratives and broad brush generalizations drawn about the Middle East. And then to have such like an intimate movie set inside a person's home and inside a person's mind and fears. I just feel like there are not nearly enough horror films that we have been exposed to out of Iran, out of Iraq, to like truly know these people and what the daily lives and experiences that they carry fear through are like.
Absolutely. Well, Iranian cinema is very well respected throughout the world, especially in the independent area. But this was the first script I read that was like a psychological horror. And I had from that region, so I wasn't exposed to it. And the first, I believe, because I'm in the first like 25 minutes and then it's like flashbacks. But it's like a family drama, you know, in the vein of separation. And the slow burn as it builds to that world, I thought it was very well done. And yeah, I mean, Iran's such an interesting place because before 79, it was, you know, I have photos of my folks and you're like, oh, is that Paris? Is that New York? I'm like, no, that's Tehran. Wow. And people are blown away people used to go there to party. Like it's wild. And then it literally just went backwards. And yeah, it's really unfortunate. Hopefully one day it'll change. But yeah, the people are incredible, and so much art, and whether it's film, fashion. I mean, it's an incredible city.
Well, we fortunately are going to get more into Iranian cinema in this conversation. Before we go there, I would like to say The Better Sister. Tell us about that. Welcome the people to the show that you have coming out. And what put you in this show? What were you like, yes, I will commit the hours and time that it takes to make a television show. I want to be in this long-term relationship with this piece of media.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I'm very excited to share it with everyone. The scripts were so good. The director for our pilot was Craig Gillespie, and our showrunners, Olivia Milch and Regina Corrado, are incredible. I cannot rave about them enough. And it's based on a book that is a bestseller by Alistair Burke. So I got to hear that before I went out to New York. I was driving from Los Angeles, I believe, up to Vancouver.
Oh, okay.
So I listened to the book before, and I was like on the edge of my seat. I was just like, okay, this is going to be really fun. And Kim Dickens plays my partner, who's incredible.
Kim Dickens is so good.
She's the best. She's literally the best. So yeah, they're much more defined in the series. So yeah, it was. I have no bad things to say about that production, which
fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so let's begin tying the pieces together. Like you've brought three wonderful and interesting choices to the table. Two of which I was aware of, Hit the Road and Captain Fantastic, and I was not aware of Taste of Cherry, and which was the 1997 Palme d'Or winner out of Cannes. So happy Cannes anniversary to that film, as we are kicking off that time of the year. And what kind of like watching all three of these, it felt like the sort of life in three movies. We have you connecting with the child character in Hit the Road, and then into Captain Fantastic, you said Viggo Mortensen, who is a man in the middle of his life, raising a family off the grid. And then in the third film, we have a man who seems to be about middle-aged, who spends the entire movie in Taste of Cherry driving around the outskirts of Tehran, looking for someone to help him in his sort of final decision he has dug a hole, and he is picking up sort of passengers, people along the side of the road saying, come check on me at this spot tomorrow morning. If I'm alive, take this money and go. If I am dead, please throw 20 spades of dirt on me and then take the money and go. So either way, you get the money, but please help me fulfill my last request. And so looking at the three phases of the young boy, the middle-aged father, and then the man leaving this world, I wanted to start with Hit the Road, and you identifying with this small, incredibly rascally boy in a movie about I kind of like watching it. I was like, this feels like Little Miss Sunshine. If the quest for the family in the car with that, it's a drama, it's a comedy, it's dry, it's everybody getting on each other's nerves, but loving each other in a way unique to how anybody else could. And it is these older parents with their older son and very young second child, and they're taking him to the border, I believe it's with Turkey, to get him smuggled across so he can get out of Iran.
این تنهاست؟ خود سر تو برگردون ببین دیگه. من دارم میگم عادی باشین، میگه سر تو برگردون ببین.
سلام جسی، برو پایین دشمنان جان، برو پایین رو زود باش.
بعد اون ماشین
And it is, part zany road trip, informed with the heaviness of coming over the course of the movie to understand what the mission is that they're on with their oldest son. So tell me about your inroad with this boy and with this film.
So Panahi, his father is a very esteemed Iranian filmmaker. And I remember hearing about Hit the Road. I believe it won Berlin or a really big prize there. So I remember watching it, and I just connected with the young boy so much because a lot of Iranians who had to flee or leave after 79 have a similar trajectory. And first of all, I thought that little boy was a phenomenal actor. I was like, where did they find him? Like that
he feels like he's so genuine and full that he feels like he has no idea there's a camera going. They just caught this boy living his life and organized a movie around him.
That is a perfect way to say it, because that's how it felt. And like when he that last scene where he's singing the song, which is a very famous, I'm just like, oh. Like that to me is, there's a little, I'm a film snob. There's a part of me, and I love big silly movies too, but like that was just blew me away. And I thought, and it's very different than Taste of Cherry. Taste of Cherry, Abbas Kiarostami is just such layered filmmaking, and you have to have a patience too. Because I remember the first time I saw Taste of Cherry, I was like, I don't like this. What's going on? This is so. And then by the middle, or when he gets to the old man, where that line comes from, the taste of cherry, like wanting that, I was just like gutted. But yeah, I guess the kid in me that kind of went through that journey of leaving Iran and leaving where you were born, and all the good memories, even though it was during a war, connected so much with the kid. And I just love that film so much. Just the composition, the tone, the humor, with this really heavy undercurrent of what's actually happening, and saying goodbye to a sibling. It just really rocked me, and it stays with me. And I tell everyone, I'm like, watch that film. I think everyone will connect to it.
What I remembered of it was, I had never seen it, but I remembered the image that was like the poster of the movie, which is that boy, like arms wide,
through the sunroof,
like screaming into the sky. And like that, what you see in the film is like, that's him standing out a sunroof, just singing out into the world across like a large flat that the family is driving across. And with like, it was so... You're watching like multiple movies within a movie, because you have this little boy who's having a completely different experience than everybody else in the car, because the family is trying to protect him from the reality of what they're doing. And he keeps calling his brother shithead. Like his term of endearment to his brother is just calling him shithead. So like they have that brotherly tension but affection for one another. But like throughout the entire thing, even up to and past the point where he has gone off and smugglers are taking him across the border, like he's being told like, oh, your brother's going off to get married, and then he's going to come back someday, but he's just getting off to get married now. And it feels like with, as you were saying, like people who had to flee after 1979, like what do you do to tell the story to the ones who are so small that perhaps they could understand, but should at that age they be made to understand what it is that is going on around them completely, and taking something, I don't know, perhaps stripping a layer of innocence or naivete that is such a joyful part about being a little child.
Yeah. I think as you were speaking, I was just thinking about the through line between these three films is trying to protect that light and fire within all of us, and not let life kind of just make you bitter and cold, is throughout all three. The parents, the kid have that. And Captain Fantastic, he's trying to maintain that and that purity. And everyone he encounters in Taste of Cherry is trying to remind him of that, that like life is precious, no matter what state, whether you're in the middle of a war, like I remember asking my mom, I was like, why did you guys have me? There was a war going on. And then you think back of like civilization has had wars and people have children, and we continue, and there's something beautiful in that. And I'm not saying I designed those three because of that, but those three, I'll take credit now, but.
No, it really felt like it was so interesting watching the common DNA of them come together over the course of seeing the three of them, and like they're all kind of families in transit. There is a transience about like sort of at the core of each of the three things. And I wondered where that was something that maybe was a connecting point for you as well. These people who are kind of searching.
100%. Yeah.
Some fights you can't win. The powerful control the lives of the powerless. That's the way the world works. It's unjust and it's unfair. But that's just too damn bad. We have to shut up and accept it. Well, fuck that. So they know we're coming! Ah!
I was very nomadic. I've lived all over the Middle East, and then Canada, the States. So that nomadic life is so connected to me. And I still do that. I was like, why did I get into this? How did I fall into this career where I travel all the time? And you're kind of longing for stability, but you're actually wanting to flow at the same time. So like, it's like this contradiction that I'm still trying to wrap my head around.
Do you find that like with a film, I would imagine like the filming process, it's going to be shorter than, like you said, you were shooting The Better Sister for 5 months. Do you find at the end of these periods of time, do you find a longing for a longer extension of like a sort of new tribe that you've adopted for a bit? Or do you find at the end of these periods of time, do you feel a restlessness that you want to continue on to the next thing?
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of actors have like this depression after rapping because you become so intimate. You spend all this time with people. Even if you're not, even if it's just the work hours, you're spending 10, 12, sometimes 15 hours together. Mm. And for me, I was an only child. So this is the circus, and I've always wanted to be a part of this big family. Right. Bringing it to The Better Sister of like, I didn't have siblings. I remember as a teenager bringing people home, and I'm like, can they live with us? And my mom and my stepfather would be like, okay. And I remember I had 2 friends that just lived with us. They were in positions where they needed that. Yeah. But I was always bringing and wanting siblings and that connection, which I didn't have. But yeah, I think I've somehow, these little makeshift families that you make, and some people you continue on with, and you have and some people you won't see for 10 years, but then when you do see them, you're like, that experience of like, you brought up Prison Break. We did that in Morocco for a portion of it, and the location plus the people, the crew, we have this deep connection, and some of them I still keep in touch with. And it's because of that experience. Mm-hmm.
When did creation through storytelling and creation through character, when did that start becoming a part of your life as a refuge or just an expression?
So my mom, she has all the talent. She was a painter. She wrote children's books. She was just an artist, could do kind of everything. But because of the circumstances, she wasn't able to pursue after all the stuff that was going on. But I had nothing to do with art because we were in, you were refugees, and then you try to get asylum, and finally Canada gave us asylum. And I got into basketball when I was like 15. So 15 to like 19, 20, I thought I was going to the NBA. I genuinely believed that. And I got pretty good, but nowhere close to that. And then around 19, I was getting into some trouble, like nothing bad, but some trouble. And then somehow one counselor was like, hey, why don't you take a drama class? And I was like, an athlete at the time, I was like, that's an easy A. So it was completely superficial. Yeah. So I go to this class, and I'll never forget this teacher's name, Beth Hogan, at LA City College. Okay. Was like, knew why I was there and just threw me on stage as soon as I walked in, was like, okay, I want you to improv this scene. And I'm like, what is happening? Like, this is insane. And I was
one
just
of kind
like,
of the most intimidating asks to do improv.
Improv now. I'm like, but
yeah, I'm like, still now for a seasoned professional.
Yeah, it was terrifying. And then it went terrible. And I was like, okay, what just happened? And that was the moment where I was like, okay. And then I kind of left it alone. I thought, okay, this is just this little thing that happens, these artsy people do. Yeah. And then I ended up kind of on the street being approached to do some things. And then a film called Phantom Love, I randomly fell into, auditioned with the director, had no experience, was super green. And she put me in this movie, which is an art house film called Phantom Love by Nina Menquez. Mm-hmm. And that ended up going to Sundance. Oh. And which that's a whole nother story, but of what happened when, and I was like, okay, I'm a big star now. This is what I do.
I made it.
I think I was like 21 or 22. And but that experience opened me up to filmmaking, and I was blown away by story because everything is story. That's how we connect to each other. And then I started doing these little Sundance movies and indie films, and then eventually started doing like bigger movies and television. But there was acting in film and TV, like it was just so outside of my world because up till 11, it was just like, what? No, like I was living in a movie. It felt like I didn't know this was a thing. I didn't know this existed. So the fact that I'm actually here and making films and television is wild to me to this day.
That gets to something that was wondering about as well. With each of these movies, you have your protagonists who are sort of on the outside of either like convention or social acceptability, or wandering into things that are taboo. The man seeking someone to help, him end his life the way that he wants to, and that not being something that is necessarily socially welcomed or religiously accepted. And it seems like in Iran, where the tension between like the separation of church and state, like you said, things changed in 1979. And so this man is kind of living out an act of rebellion. And then you have in Captain Fantastic, this family who sort of exists in a state of rebellion to a society that these parents, Vigo and his wife, who we learned something critical about her in the story, they have taken their family outside of a world that has just become too sort of ugly and conformist for them. And they want to raise their flock out in the woods amongst nature. And then you have the family in Hit the Road who are doing something illegal. Like the mother's concerned at points like, I think we're being followed. Like they are now sort of enemies of the state, or on the opposite side of the intention of the state for what they're doing with their son. And I wanted to hear about a connection that you might have to the notion of sort of having to operate outside of the bounds of the safety net or acceptability. And if that's something you feel like has been a part of your journey as well.
Absolutely. I think rebellion in any of its form can exist in art, in creativity. I firmly believe that. And I've seen that on many levels. Like, for example, we were talking about Iran. In Iran, one of the reasons why the films are so powerful is because of the oppression, right? So they have to be so creative of how they make their films. And also the history of it comes from oppression, all this stuff. And in the sense that it comes from poetry. Iran is not known for paintings. It was known for poetry. They have incredible poets throughout history, and that kind of translates into their films. So if you watch Iranian film, because of them fighting the outside oppression, they're leaning into the arts. And I feel like that is sacred. And in every society, you have that. You have, whether it's blues music, whether it's folk music, like it's always went into the arts because it's always been safer to do it that way, where it's a little bit more subtle. So I think coming into the arts was my way of kind of dealing with all the traumas of the world. I think a lot of people find there's a great like Ethan Hawke quote. I remember he said, poetry doesn't mean anything day to day until you lose someone, until your heart is broken, and then it comes to heal us. And I'm like, oh, that's beautiful. We need it there, and sometimes we forget and we get so wrapped up in day to day, whether it's career or it's your kids or, just day to day life. And then you forget that, like, okay, we have these tools that society has created, like music, paintings, art, and all of its facets to help us cope in a sense.
And in like, talking about like the characters searching and the art to sort of like process our circumstances, have you found that in perhaps your own searching, are you at a place of settling within that search? Like, have you found, like you said, like being the only child, like finding sort of, chosen families along the way and sort of homes along the way? Are you at a place where you feel like you have found a sort of baseline, or are you still in that process of your searching?
I think I'll search until my last breath. I don't think. I don't think there's like, okay, now I'm at ease with life and whatever experiences. And, the show is about a lot of childhood trauma as well, dealing with that stuff and how we process it, how different people process it. But personally, I think it's a continuous thing. A balance, finding a peace maybe, but I think you're continuously searching and exploring that stuff.
Do you find that like these, like multiple of these characters that you sort of like, do you find yourself as someone who does butt up against the constraints of like the generally acceptable mores? Like, are you feeling like, to the question of rebellion that we were talking about a moment ago, do you feel like yours is a more natural state of rebellion that needs to be quelled? Or is it like, no, I'm good most days. Like I've found my groove in most ways. Or are you kind of like these confines are a bit too tight?
It's a good question. Personally, I want more freedom in the arts, more freedom, like in filmmaking, even right now, I've watched this film twice now and I love it. Sinners, which is a big movie, right?
Yeah.
It's a big movie and I'm not a part of it. I'm not associated, but I've been raving about it because now it's not about being a perfect film, but it's so important that this film was made because it's an original idea. And that is, I think someone said it's like, just make great films and people will go. This idea of like everyone's scrolling and they're not paying attention, of course, because you have to give them good food. You have to give them something that captures them. Were you scrolling on your phone during Hit the Road? I'm pretty sure you were locked in, like good music, good food, all these things. We need to put more soul into these things. And I think people will come. But if you give them fast food all the time, then that's the result. I think it's just that simple. I just think we have to respect audiences more and give them, I think sometimes we think, audiences are stupid. And I'm like, if you treat them that way, then that will be the thing. But if you give them like something like Sinners, which I've seen twice now, and every time I find something new and the performances. And again, this was not in my, like, I wasn't like a big movie, like, blockbusters weren't like, I'm dying. I'm like, no, I've seen it twice. I'll probably go see it again.
Yeah.
Just because I feel like it's such a good film. It's so entertaining. It's so fresh. I feel like now I'm doing promotion for them, but good,
No, but they're
good.
Like, it's been so exciting to, I feel like that the weekend, I think it was the weekend that Sinners came out. It was like Sinners, The Accountant 2, Minecraft, and I think the like returning to theaters of Revenge of the Sith. Each made more than $20 million. And like it was so exciting to see like a weekend at the movies where Sinners was absolutely kicking ass and getting phenomenal reviews. And people are going to see, like, this movie's making money off of people going to see it 2-3 times, like multiple. I've seen it 3 times in theaters. And but what that weekend proved is like, what if there's room for it all? And we just stopped saying that one version of something was what deserved a lot of money in theatrical treatment when we could give people a buffet at the movies of things to choose from every weekend.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I mean, Beekeeper, which I was so blown away by the success, was
God,
so
I love
fun.
that movie.
People in theaters, I remember watching it in a theater in LA, and people were like cheering and going. I was just like, what is happening? This is so insane. No, but you're right. Like there's room for all of it, whether it's Minecraft or The Beekeeper or Hit the Road. We want a palette. We don't want just one thing kind of just shoved down our throats. That's another reason why Better Sister, was so exciting, because the writing was so good, and the directors, we had amazing directors, and the casting. I was just like, wow, okay, this is cool, this is exciting, and because you hear so much, because negativity always kind of is the loudest, right?
Yeah, the cream rises to the top, but so does the absolute bullshit. That is true.
Yeah, and I'm excited. I want more people to make new things, take a new spin on an old idea, whatever it is. That's all exciting to me. And I don't know. I think good things will come. I like to be an optimist. I mean, so many people are just so negative.
I was wondering if you were, if you aligned in more of an optimism or pessimism side of the spectrum, because there's so much beauty within these movies, but there's a lot of weight within these movies. And I wondered sort of if you align more on the side of like feeling the weight pulling or trying to be like the air lifting more often than not.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was raised by an extreme optimist. My mom, who powerful woman who dealt with, I mean, the most insane stuff. You know, her life is a book. So watching her and you know, testament to the power of women and mothers go through life, everything else seems like, come on, you know, like we're, you know, let's just, because, you know, I always believe that like more people scream fire instead of grabbing a bucket, you know, like we can just keep screaming, or we can actually go and make that film, or, you know, do whatever the thing you want to do is, you know, and negativity comes from me too. I'm not like, not guilty of it, but I feel like surround yourself with good people and just stay creative and you know, we've been around for a while. Human beings will be fine. I promise you. And if we're not, then we're not. Like another species will come, you know, the planet's 14 billion years old. Like, I think we're going to be okay.
It's time for a break, but we will be back with Bobby Naderi in a moment. Then I will have one quick thing before I go about a little gem that I believe just made its Cannes premiere, and I got to attend a screening. It is the new Coen brother collaboration with his wife Trisha Cook. It is Honey Don't, and I am going to praise it at the end of the show, so stick around.
Hey, Sydney, you're a physician and the co-host of Sawbones, a marital tour of misguided medicine, right?
That's true, Justin.
Is it true that our medical history podcast is just as good as a visit to your primary care physician?
No, Justin, that is absolutely not true. However, our podcast is funny and interesting and a great way to learn about the medical misdeeds of the past, as well as some current, not so legit healthcare fads.
So you're saying that by listening to our podcast, people will feel better?
Sure.
And isn't that the same reason that you go to the doctor?
Well, you could say that, but...
And our podcast is free?
Yes, it is free.
You heard it here first, folks. Sawbones, marital tour of misguided medicine, right here on Maximum Fun, just as good as going to the doctor.
No. Still not just as good as going to the doctor, but pretty good.
It's up there.
The Flophouse is a podcast where we watch a bad movie and then we talk about it.
Guys, how does E.T. poop?
Well, he's not that regular, but I mean, as he's gotten older.
He has 2 cloacas, one under each arm.
No, I was just looking forward to you going through the other ways in which Wild Wild West is historically inaccurate.
You know how much movies cost nowadays when you add in your popcorn and your bagel bites and your cheese fritters?
You can't go wrong with a Henry Cavill mustache. Here at Henry Cavill Mustaches, the only supplier.
The Flophouse. New episodes every Saturday. Find it at MaximumFun.org.
Thinking of Taste of Cherry, like he picks up a young soldier, a Kurdish boy who is a young soldier and a clergyman, I believe. And neither of them want to assist him. The boy is just kind of freaked out by it all, and he takes off running from the car when he gets a chance. Yeah. And the clergyman says, like, it's not, like, I cannot, according to my religion, like, assist you in taking your life. And then the man who finally agrees to help him is a taxidermist. But he agrees to help him, but is also the one who goes on the sort of long explanation of how he, back in the 1960s, he contemplated taking his own life, but then he tasted like the beautiful fruit, and then he took it to his wife, and she enjoyed the fruit, and he realized that there was so much to live for. And the man who agreed to help him in his last rites, his last wishes, was the one who also was trying to convince him that there's enough left here. And it's just such a, like you said, you've got to have patience for this movie, but through that patience, it gives you time to sit with somebody who is just sort of, I mean, it's kind of a parable. You get sort of like these 3 archetypes that land in his car in this strange scenario of just like circling around these hills for an evening. Yeah. And to just like watch someone go through like these kind of like Virgils showing up along the way and trying to like make him believe or run screaming from him. It felt like, I mean, this feels like it feels like a microcosm of life in a car over the course of an hour and a half movie.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I would go through all of Kiarostami's films. I remember I think Martin Scorsese said film starts with Kurosawa and ends with Kiarostami, which is like highest praise. But yeah, you have to be very patient with his films. He uses a lot of non-actors as well. I think the lead actor in that film he's a very, very high regarded actor. But I think some of them were just street casting, and he gets some incredible. It's cheating to me sometimes, but I'll allow it. Rest in peace, Mr. Kiarostami. I'll allow it.
I mean, if film ends with him, if you're going to make an exception anywhere.
Yeah, he's allowed. He's the only one who's allowed. But yeah, it's a beautiful allegory for life, and kind of, reminding ourselves not to get sucked into the mundane and find the little joys, whether it's coffee, whatever it is,
Well, and I suppose I wanted to hear you talk about that a bit as well, because there's like a thing that comes up a lot in these conversations is like that line between like it's a business and making the best of the business of it is what makes it sustainable, so we can get the art out in the world. But then like I'm doing this for the art because the art is what connects with people. And I wanted to hear like from, a career starting in like Sundance films, like starting kind of falling ass backwards into one and then making an early career out of that. And then making like the most crowd pleasing of crowd pleasers possible in like The Beekeeper. And what is the balance for you in the kinds of stuff that you will, because these are not insignificant amount of time that filmmakers invest themselves within a project. And so I wanted to hear how you keep that balance, knowing that the time expenditure will be substantial for something you put yourself into.
So yeah, when I fell ass backwards into indie film, I was very snobbish. I was like, I remember this is a funny story. So I remember going to a meeting with an agent. It was like a mid-level agent. I didn't have an agent at the time, and he was like, I was young. I was like 22. I had just done Phantom Love. So I thought, that's it. Again, I'm like a small character in it. And there's a whole story behind that we'll save for another time. But I thought, this is it. Like, now the offers are going to come, and then I'm going to do this, and great. I remember going to this meeting, and I was like, I don't want to do television. I don't want to do any blockbusters. I want to make art. And he looked at me and he's like, good luck, kid. Like, he was like, okay, buddy. And I was like, fine. And then I started doing these films, and I had no money. No one's seen them, and they were just art house films. Yeah. And I was like, okay, this has to change. I think around like 26, 27, I was like, this is cool, but yeah, I want to be able to have people see it, and I want to be able to live off of this. And I was doing all these odd jobs, crazy odd jobs, which I'm grateful for because it gave me so much life experience. But yeah, there was a shift of like, okay, it has to kind of meet, you have to have the balance of like getting it out into the world. And I think there's some filmmakers who really understand that, of making high art, but very commercial at the same time. And I love that balance. And also like weaving between the two. Like, I loved Beekeeper and I loved Under the Shadow. And I want to be able to kind of do the smaller, more intimate films, which has worked before. A lot of actors have done that in the past. But you can also make a huge movie that's brilliant. Like I think Sinners is made like an indie film, but it's going to hopefully make $1 billion. The Better Sister is another one that's going to be, hopefully it's on a big platform and big stars. And
you don't see Jessica Biel often. So when you do, it's kind of like, well, she must have left home for a reason, goddammit.
She's incredible in it. Elizabeth Banks, they're just amazing. And I think people are in for a great treat with them. But yeah, I think it can exist in both having art and commerce kind of meet.
And talking about being, you talked about being an optimist, where like, there's the process that he goes through, but obviously like the central character in Taste of Cherry he's kind of given up. Like he seems like he's maybe kind of loosening his grip on that notion as the movie, like, because he tells the man who agrees to help, he's like, hey, actually, like, before you decide I'm dead or you start burying me, can you like shake me? Like, make sure I'm dead. Like, throw rocks at me, shake me, make sure I'm really dead before you start burying me. So even if he's not like recanting on his decision to end his life, He's like, no, but I don't want to be buried alive. Like, that would be horrible. As someone who, we can all be like captured by a negativity or a pessimism, but as somebody who identifies as like a core optimist, tell me about more specifically, like connecting with like somebody who at their core is giving up in Taste of Cherry and has decided that it's not worth keeping on trying anymore or trying to find that light every day.
See, I think he hasn't given up. I think it's bullshit. He's lying to himself. Okay. Because if he really wanted to end his life, he would have done it. Mm-hmm. He wouldn't have gone and talked to all these people. Why do you need that? Why does it matter? So it's actually a cry for help, right? He's going to the soldier, the young boy, and the older gentleman because he's wanting that. He's that little fire in him still exists. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, like, sadly, I've known of people who've taken their life. It's unexpected. You don't see it coming, and it's brutal, and it's done. So he's actually not giving up. He's just he's pleading for help, and that's why. And I think that's why at the end of the film, you see Kiarostami come out, and you see him with the camera crew and everything. Mm-hmm. Because
the movie ends with this meta image of the filmmaker making the movie being shot through like a hand camera.
Yeah. So I think he's actually just trying, like going like, okay, he needs that connection back to life. Mm-hmm. And he gets it. You said it brilliantly, because the person who said, I'll do it, is the person who actually breaks through and kind of like helps put some gas on that little light of his. But like, he says, I'll do it, but like, let me share. And it was kind of like by example of like, look, I've been there, I've had this experience, but like, kind of like reminding them of the preciousness of life. And like, if you look at it of all the bad stuff, it's miserable, but like focus on that one thing and build on that. So I think he's just asking for help throughout the film, and because otherwise he would have done it. There's no reason. Check if I'm alive. Why aren't you talking to people?
Yeah.
Like, you just need some love. People just are asking for connection, when they're hurting. And because when you're at that state, when you're in that dark, dark place, that is like that's different. That you're alone. You're so isolated that you won't even allow anyone close. So the idea that he kept going and seeking people, could have just done it in his home, no one, or anywhere, in the middle of a field. It didn't matter. Why does it matter if your body's buried? You're already committing a sin, in any religion, and even if you're not religious, like you don't take your own life. Our natural state is to preserve this body, this life force, right? So if he really wanted to do it, he would have done it. It would have been no move.
Yeah.
But it was the journey of him getting convinced of like the preciousness of life. You
mentioned connection, and I wanted, I guess, my wrap up question to be, how have you found, like, coming into film and then making a career of this, how have you found that role of connecting people factors into your work, and perhaps even connecting to yourself? If it was something that you didn't intend to pursue, but then here you are, like, and seeing the value in that connectivity, and so much in like what movies like these do is show us what connection to ourselves and our loved ones and the earth and what that can really mean. How do you find that connectivity to others and again to yourself plays a role in your career?
I think it's everything. For me, because I was an only child, because of the nomadic lifestyle, you're always living, you have a huge imagination.
Right.
And I feel like film sets and television sets, stories, theater, gave characters for me to actually play with. So it fulfilled that. And, the process of the filmmaking is the high for me. I genuinely believe that, because the result is amazing. It's so fun I want to celebrate them. I want more people to see it. But the making of it is incredible. And I tie it to like your mom, your dad, your aunt, whoever, and you get to cook with them. It's like the food is going to be amazing, but the making of it is like, that's when you're present, because at that moment, you're not longing for after you see it, you're like, oh my God, it was so amazing to make it, but in that moment, you're extremely present, for me, anyways, speaking just for myself. So the making is the delicious part of it all, you know, like it's whether it's theater, whether it's any kind of arts you're in, I feel like the making is the good stuff.
That is, I mean, we get so lucky so often with people really putting a perfect bow on the conversation that came before it, and you have just done that very thing. I can't go beyond that. I can't go past that. Bobby, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today about these beautiful movies and movies that people should see. And it's so exciting when people bring titles that I feel like will be a source of discovery. And yeah, thank you so much for your time, and good luck with The Better Sister getting out there.
Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much to Bobby Naderi. That was a beautiful conversation, and I so appreciate having my eyes open to these wonderful Iranian films. The Better Sister lands on Amazon Prime on the same day as this episode comes out, May 29th. So you do not have to wait another second to check it out and see if you can help make it one of those artistic projects that's also a big hit. We love the best of both worlds. And now that one quick thing before I go. I don't remember if I did a one quick thing about Drive Away Dolls when that came out last year. I was so delighted by it. Had an absolute blast. It is Ethan Coen's essentially solo project in the sense that he's not doing it with his brother Joel, the other Coen brother. But he did make it in conjunction with his wife and one of, a creative partner of his, Trisha Cook. He credits her basically with co-directing that film he talked about in doing the press for it, though he is exclusively credited as the director when you watch it play out on the screen. But they wrote the screenplay together. And at the end, there's a title card. This isn't a spoiler or anything, but at the end, there's a title card where it comes up, it says Drive Away Dolls, and the dolls falls off, and it says Drive Away Dykes. And this is a movie that they wrote together back in, I think, the 2000s, but they couldn't find a home for zany B-movie road trip lesbian comedy. So they've been hanging on to it for a while. But so Drive Away Dolls was the first in what they've kind of talked about as a conceptual trilogy of lesbian B-movie material. Once again, this new one is Honey Don't. It once again stars the most effervescent Margaret Qualley doing something very different than the sort of frantic Southern weirdo oddball that she plays in Drive Away Dolls. She is a swaggering woman of few words, sexy as hell private detective living in Bakersfield, California. And these movies are like an hour and a half. You get in, you get out, and it's hijinks. And much like any Coen production, it's a cast of characters kind of film. And I think Honey Don't sang, I will say Drive Away Dolls sang a little bit more for me, but Honey Don't was a total delight. I had a lot of fun. I hope they get the means to make at least a trilogy of these. Give me the Margaret Qualley spiritual anthology set of lesbian movies from the mind of Trisha Cook, who is a lesbian herself, married to Ethan Coen, and let's do this forever. These movies of modest means that are a good, silly, fun time. And this one has again, I say she plays the PI, Honey, and she a woman who was supposed to be a client of hers turns up dead, and then people around this town, this kind of depressed desert town, start turning up dead, and Honey starts to wonder if there's a connection between these things. And in the meantime, she strikes up an affair with a local police officer, Aubrey Plaza. It's lesbians. It's crime. It's lesbians solving crime. It's Margaret Qualley swaggering, one of our most dynamic young rising talents. She's always so surprising. She makes such surprising choices. I love it when people who don't have to work because their lives are funded and paid for, put together like carefully chosen cool filmographies of whatever attracts them at the time. Her and Allison Williams, my two touchstones with that. Keep up the good work out there, ladies. And in this case, Honey Do. Go see Honey Don't. And that is our show. You can keep up with us wherever you get your podcasts. And if you hit the follow button wherever you're listening to, you can get every new episode in your feed as it drops. You can follow us on various social media platforms to find out more, like Instagram, where we are Feeling Seen Pod, or Blue Sky, where you can search either Feeling Seen or Jorcru, Jorcru, which is where I can also be found on Twitter. Our theme music is by Andrew Epen. This show is produced by Marissa Flaxbart. Our senior producers are Kevin Ferguson and Laura Swisher, and this is a production of Maximum Fun.
Maximum Fun,
a worker-owned network
of artist-owned shows,
supported directly by you.